Hi everyone, Dr. Matthew Flippin here. Today we're revisiting one of the clearest examples of school transformation that we've featured on Transformational Educators, my conversation with Dr. Karen Engle, Superintendent of Clear Creek ISD. Dr. Engle shares how she rebuilt trust with a discouraged staff, created early wins, and used a simple leadership approach: listen, learn, and respond. The result was not only stronger student outcomes, but a culture the staff truly owned. If you are trying to rebuild trust, restore confidence, or lead change in a struggling school, this conversation will give you a practical place to begin. Watch, and if this resonates, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We'll be back soon with a brand new conversation. Thanks for being here. Today on the podcast, Dr. Karen Engle. Dr. Engle is the superintendent of Clear Creek ISD, where she has dedicated most of her career to building strong relationships and leading with trust and purpose. She was recognized as a finalist for the HEB Excellence in Education Award, and her leadership is known for turning struggling schools into thriving campuses through a servant leadership model. Today we'll explore how she transformed Clearview, an at-risk 7th through 12th campus on the brink of failure, by listening, learning, and responding to staff and student needs. By the end of this episode, you'll walk away with a clear framework for building trust, shifting culture, and leading sustainable change in any school community. Welcome to Transformational Educators, where we help school leaders create lasting change by sharing powerful, real-world stories of servant leadership and practical strategies for transformation. I'm your host, Matthew Flippin, president of Graceland University, where we equip school leaders to make a lasting impact. Dr. Engle, I have admired that you have been in this district for a majority of your career and built such strong relationships that now you have been nominated, I think it's 2 years ago, to be superintendent and have been in that role. So fantastic. Congratulations on that. I also know that you are a finalist in the HEB Excellence Award. I'm sure there are many other accolades that you have won, but today we are going to be talking about a campus that you led that maybe was hurting when you arrived, and over the time that you were there, that changed into a campus that was thriving in some way. So I'm really excited to hear the process that you guided that through and how you led that transformation. So thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. So the name of the campus is Clearview, and it was a 7th through 12th grade alternative campus. We have a district of about 40,000 students.
Wow.
But
Okay.
this campus is about 300,
Okay.
the time 350, and all of the students were basically at risk.
Okay.
They'd either failed a grade, failed a state assessment, been, something that caused them to be at risk, multiple discipline issues in DAP. So they had to apply to go to Clearview. It's an application only. But once they were accepted, then we did everything we could to help them be successful. But they all came into that campus from a background of I'd say less than success in school, if you will.
Sure. Okay. So in a way, they'd had a failed experience.
Correct.
They were struggling and they needed to be there, but they still had to apply.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if they didn't want to be there, it wasn't going to work. So they had to apply.
Okay.
It's almost like, you have to want to get better and you have to want to be successful because it's difficult. It's not their home campus. So they had to travel to this special location, smaller class sizes, a lot of focus on the individual student and a lot of counseling support, to help them to be successful.
I love that you said you have to want to get better. That's not just true for children. Adults need to want to get better as well. So what was the culture like among the staff when you arrived?
Unfortunately, they had some turnover in leadership multiple times. The culture was almost like the kids. It was kind of interesting that they felt like there wasn't a culture of success. Almost a feeling of failure. There was a malaise, I guess, if you will. It did not feel like a regular campus. It felt very depressing, if you will, to me. The academic scores were not good. Now, keep in mind, these kids are there because they need to be academically successful.
Okay.
And the campus was on regular accountability, and it was one student away from unacceptable.
Okay. Wow. That's really, that
Bad.
sounds challenging.
Bad.
That sounds challenging. Yeah. So I can imagine that when you've had leader turnover, when you arrive, the staff may be thinking, how long is she going to stay? And so they're probably mistrusting of you and the things you want to implement. Was that what you found?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Very mistrusting, very, they had no confidence. So my background moving into that position, I've taught high school and I ended up as a high school principal.
Okay.
But before I went to this campus, I was an elementary principal.
Okay.
So they didn't really give me a lot of credit for that high school background. They're thinking this elementary lady knows nothing except she's too positive. Very, very mistrusting. It was discouraging.
Okay. That sounds like you might have gone home a few nights
Yes,
and wondered, why am I at this place?
I did.
Yeah. And maybe you had a shoulder to cry on a few times. So how did you start to build trust? What started the change where they did start to believe, hey, she's not just full of confidence?
Yeah, I really focused first on the campus culture. What is it? And realized pretty quickly we were in a bad situation. So I looked for what I call low-hanging fruit or very quick wins. What are some things that you can do to turn this around? And one thing I did that summer, I came in June and I switched the master schedule to go from 7 periods for the kids to 8 periods because they had all failed. There was a real concern about academic achievement.
Okay.
So I changed the master schedule and double blocked some things that they needed more, gave them more opportunity to graduate and get the support they needed.
Okay.
So I did that. So gave a little fewer minutes in every class, but enough time and more time for kids to be successful. And then I just really, something we even do now on the district level, but listen to the teachers. I brought those department heads in right away and said, what do we need to do? Kind of brought them together, brought them kolaches and said, hey, what can we do to work together? So really tapped in on what the leadership on the campus felt like we could do. And then I started doing some things pretty quickly. I'd say one of the probably high leverage events, and I didn't plan it, they had a grant through an organization, and the grant did not give the teachers a lot of credibility. There was a consultant that came in,
Okay.
and was kind of degrading. And the first time I experienced this, I was really taken aback. It's like, that's not okay. And the grant was for like $50,000. So we had to kind of finish out the contract, and we didn't have time for that. I'm telling you, it was not going to be good for the staff. And so after the second time the grant lady came, I had the staff write, just give a review, a summary of the experience, of the professional learning experience. And I gave it to the grant lady. I didn't even look at it. And it was so bad that they didn't want to come back. We just kind of ended the contract and we didn't need it. It was bringing them down. I know that's kind of confusing, but it was really
I understand that.
bringing them. The people were coming in from the outside and they were disrespecting or degrading the abilities of the staff. And so they felt like they couldn't do it. And the grant people felt like they didn't do it. So the first thing I had to do is remove that grant people, that person, the consultant, it just didn't work well.
Yeah.
And so we took the money loss and I just said, hey, we've got enough. We're good. And then we started from scratch from the people in the organization.
Sure.
The outside wasn't helping. We needed to build them up from the inside.
Okay. Karen, I appreciate your sensitivity to culture. And you've mentioned the way it felt when you were there. And part of that is how dignified people or respected people feel for the work that they're doing. And it is something fragile that we can easily be condescending or talk down when really we need to be lifting up. Coaching, right, versus demeaning. And I can imagine how removing a negative person from that, who was a perceived expert. Right.
Yeah.
Put some people over to you, because I would imagine some of the staff was thankful to not. So that was a pretty quick win. That was
Big
an early
win. It was very quick. Within
Built
a few
some
months.
credibility for you.
Yes. And then I said, okay, we can do this. So we
Yes.
kind of got the external out. Now you got to build it from the
Right.
people that you had. What can we do to build this up? And really from then on, they felt like they could do it, started to say, we don't need outside help. Y'all are good enough. That was the message.
That's so confidence building.
And and it happened onto it. I didn't know. I was just not happy with the way we were being treated. And so I felt we don't need that. You don't have time. I think that's one thing that I've learned is if you need to do something and you can do it, don't wait. Don't be tied to a schedule. I mean, we live in a time where you have to be flexible and responsive.
Yeah.
So I would say, really, and I go back to 3 words: listen, then learn, and respond.
Yes.
And that is almost what we live by at that building, at the district level. Listen, learn, and then respond, and don't wait.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think about, the model that we are framing for this program, this Masters in Transformational Leadership, is really about, build a foundation of relationships, which you do through listening, right? This curiosity of learning, which is the assessment piece, we would say. Now that you've got some trusted people, let's honestly look at what we can do better. How can we improve, right? And then what was the third?
Respond.
That's right. So now let's implement the strategy that we can build on. Of course, reassessing as we go. But I think I love that those 3 pieces are clear and easy. And you said you're still using that today.
At the district level, we had some culture decline, and we came in, listen, learn, and then respond. Because if you come in and you respond, don't assume you know what's happening.
Sure.
That's problematic, but if you listen, build those relationships, learn what's happening, then you can make good decisions, and usually in collaboration with your team.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, and the truth is that that approach is actually backed by neuroscience about just how people respond. So the brain, children come into classrooms with this same resistance. You don't know me. You don't really have a right to teach me. But once they start to feel safe, which is the listen, right, and learn aspect of that, then they start to learn as well. So the campus that you were on was near the bottom when you got there. And then you said you were there out within the
2 years.
2 years. And by the end of that time, what did it look like then?
Yes. And we were the lowest rated campus in the district.
Okay.
We have 45 campuses.
Okay.
So it's not good.
You were number 45.
Yeah, number 45. But at the end of that time, maybe there weren't probably 42, but still we've grown a little bit. But then, at the end of 2 years, we were 1 student away from, exemplary or an A.
Okay.
In 2 years.
Fantastic. And what was the staff culture like at that point?
Oh my gosh. They were so happy. They were so bought in. They did it. It was their effort. So it was completely different, and it's really always remained at that level. I moved to open a high school after that, but the campus itself has maintained that, what I'd call that sense of self-efficacy for the entire staff.
That's outstanding. Now, I would assume they rioted when you said you were going to leave, because I'm sure they deeply loved you at that point.
Yeah, it was hard to leave because I love that campus. I did.
But what we've noticed about leaders that guide campuses through transformation that sustains, they do exactly this piece that you just highlighted, which is the staff owns the transformation that has occurred. It's not hero driven. Right. The heroes are the teachers.
Absolutely.
And the leaders serve as the guide. Right. We're going to guide you through this process with accountability and the other things that go with that. But outstanding. How beautiful to hear this story, and that you've got to go on and I would assume do this again in a few places. And now at the
Uh-huh.
district level, I would expect that each leader knows that you care about them, that you're listening, learning, and responding.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
We still do it.
Yeah, to the fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Engle, for being here. And I'm a fan. I am cheering for you. And if I can be any of support, please let me know.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
All right. Thank you so
you.
much. If today's conversation gave you fresh insight or inspired you to lead with purpose, please follow the show and tell a friend. It helps us reach more educators who want to make a difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to support your leadership journey, visit graceland.edu. Until next time, keep leading with courage and care. If you want to keep learning about transformational strategies in education, click the next video.